What if I told you Rihanna didn't become a billionaire because of her music? She became one because of makeup. Oh, yeah. The same woman who gave us Umbrella and Work built an empire that made millions in just a few weeks. Not from a concert, but from a beauty product, Fenty. And here's the wild part. She didn't reinvent beauty. She just did one thing the entire industry overlooked. She made everyone feel seen. We all love that. We all want to feel seen. And that's ironic in an industry which, being seen is the goal. Anyway, from there, Fenty Beauty, Fenty Skin, and Savage Fenty turned her name into a global movement. And because I believe we all deserve to win, I studied her pattern of success, which were interestingly all built on just a few very specific qualities. I'm going to break all of those down for you, along with some takeaways for how you can apply them yourself. So, how did Rihanna launch into a self-made billion-dollar business? And more importantly, how can you do the same? Let's get into it. Cue the music. Hey there, I'm Melody Bose, your host of Jeans with a Blazer, a podcast about rewriting the rules of work and life. All right, Rihanna is a queen, you guys. I am so excited to get into this. So in 2023, Forbes estimated that Rihanna had about a net worth of around $1.4 billion. And this secured her as one of the top 20 self-made richest women. Yes, girl. And just to give you an idea of how massive her success was, Fenty Beauty, her makeup line, famously generated $72 million in its first month. And did she stop there? No. She continued breaking her own record with Fenty Skin, her skincare line that generated $100 million within its first week. Then her lingerie line, Savage Fenty, was valued at $1 billion. Money signs all around. And that was just 3 years after launching. You guys, that is insane. So, the billion-dollar question, how did she do it? Now, we've seen plenty of crossovers here where celebrities like artists and musicians and actors have ventured into business, but few have done it as successfully as Riri. Especially when you look at just how far she comes, it will blow your mind. So the important keyword here is that she is self-made. And that's really important for a reason, because we have people like the Paris Hiltons and the Kardashians who have amassed an insane amount of wealth, but they all come from families that made it a little bit easier to pursue this path because, well, they just had more access to resources, family wealth, and opportunities. Nepo babies, we don't even need to get into that. So, and that's also not to minimize their work or work ethic, but if you're an heiress, you're probably not worried about, keeping the lights on while you build your empire. So one thing about Rihanna, she does not come from a wealthy background, and she didn't have access to many of the opportunities. In fact, when you see just how rough of a start she had in life, it makes these achievements just that much more impressive. So Rihanna built her own path brick by brick, you guys. She grew up in Barbados with 2 half-sisters and a half-brother in a 3-bedroom bungalow. Her dad, she reports, struggled with addiction. There was some tension in the home with her parents, and she had her own medical issues that she suffered from. And for a while, she sold clothing in a street stall with her dad. Not exactly a glamorous life. So she has this dream for a better life, and she decides to take a chance on herself and pursue music. It's like a Cinderella story, but like she is Prince Charming and she is doing all the things. So eventually a demo tape makes its way to Jay-Z. She eventually becomes a world famous star, blah, blah, blah. Skip, skip, skip. I know I'm skipping a lot here, but you catch the drift. This is about the business side of things. Now, after years of dominating the charts and shaping a culture through music, Rihanna could have easily stayed in that lane. But here's what sets her apart. She didn't just want success. She wanted more than that. She wanted substance. She started asking some bigger questions like, what do I actually stand for? And what impact do I want to have? A question that I think many of us ask. And that's when she did something that most celebrities don't. She looked inward. Instead of chasing the next hit single, she started building something that reflected who she truly was. And that brings us to our next chapter, the launch of Fenty, which at its core is rooted in authenticity. You're going to hear that word come up a lot, but it makes sense for the nature of this. So here's why that's a big deal. And there's a lot of celebrity brands that have just gone horribly wrong. And you're probably like, I can't think of any. Well, that's because they don't advertise that. You only hear about the most successful celebrity brands. So there's a reason why celebrity brands go wrong. And here's why that is. A lot of celebrities they cash in on the name of their fame by slapping their brand name on a clothing label. And while doing something like that might have a lot of momentum at first, it's not really sustainable. if it lacks one very important thing. I'm going to annoy you so much with this word, authenticity. Now, one thing about Rihanna is she stays so true to herself, and that reflects in everything she does, including her business ventures. See, Rihanna approached every new venture as an extension of herself and her identity. I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. So a little backstory, Rihanna's mom worked at a makeup and perfume counter. She was super knowledgeable about beauty and all the beauty products. And Rihanna even says in previous interviews that her mom was really strict and didn't allow her to wear makeup. So she'd sneak into her cosmetics bag when she was at work. Now, we have a story and we have that connection to Rihanna's why. Rihanna grew up with a passion for beauty. Keep that in the back of your mind. So while Rihanna was off creating these chart-topping hits, it wasn't like she woke up one day and she was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a little side hustle, a little beauty line. Oh no. Rihanna doesn't do things 50%. No, not even 80, not even 90%. She does not mess around. Riri goes all in with her bad self. So Rihanna treated her brand venture with the same creativity and care as her music, making sure it remained authentic to her. And to do that, she needed to invest her time strategically. So here's the thing. I'm going to put on my nerdy little marketing hat on right now and just talk through the process of launching a brand. That's my background. It takes a lot of work. You have to come up with the concept, the colors, source the products, design the packaging, copywriting, website, socials, and launching a brand can vary on a lot of things depending on the complexity of the products or offerings. For example, if you're just trying to create a clothing line of graphic tees as one person, that could take a few weeks where you come up with the design and you send it to a third-party printer and print all the quantity of what you want. Meanwhile, something a little more complicated like an organic cereal could take you months to a year. And of course, your timeline is impacted on depending whether you're doing this by yourself or if you have a team of people. So with Rihanna's resources, she already had this very wildly successful music career. She could have produced a generic white label makeup line with her brand name in maybe 3 to 6 months. And if you don't already know, something that's white label basically means a manufacturer has already pre-made the products and the formulas and packaging, and all you do is you just put your brand label on it. A lot of celebrities do that. But Rihanna, my girl Rihanna, she spent years developing the products because she wanted them to have a certain quality standard. Unlike some celebrity lines, she didn't just slap her name on a product and call it a day. She was 100% involved in the process, from the formulation to the packaging and the marketing. This foundation of trust made her transition from pop star to brand CEO feel really natural. I was like, oh yeah, Rihanna has a makeup line? Like, that makes sense. Now, if you don't know where the name Fenty comes from, that's close to home too. This is another layer of her authenticity because it's Rihanna's actual last name. Her full name is Robin Rihanna Fenty. So this was interesting because devoted fans who knew these facts about her automatically felt close to the brand because it's like it already came with this piece of insider information. It had the pull of a built-in fan base, but for those who didn't even know Fenty was Rihanna's brand, the name could stand on its own to develop its own reputation. Clever girl. So another thing Rihanna did that was extremely smart was she took things a step further outside of quality. Now guys, you just look at the shelves of Sephora and you see there is no shortage of quality makeup brands. We've got NARS, we've got Lancome, we've got MAC, Too Faced, Benefit, Tarte. It is infinite. So to stand out, Rihanna needed to do something different. See, all the brands I just mentioned have a lot in common. Too much, one might say, because they all seem to be competing for the attention of a very specific demographic of women. Translation, there was a whole community of women that were underrepresented in the beauty industry. So Rihanna said, not today, chat. Everyone deserves to feel pretty regardless of color, tone, or hue. So she went all inclusive. She launched with 40 shades of foundation, from the palest tones to the deepest in warm, cool, and neutral undertones. Now, this was virtually unheard of for a new cosmetics line because most brands historically offered a much narrower range. We have some exceptions, CoverGirl, things like that, but what they tend to do is they often overlook very fair or very deep skin. And by immediately offering an inclusive 40-shade range, rather than adding darker shades later as an afterthought, Fenty made beauty for all its rallying cry. Yes! Love it. Love it. Shaking the camera. I don't even care. Okay. And the result? Oh, You can only guess. Consumers who long felt ignored by the beauty industry flocked to Fenty in droves. The deeper foundation colors sold out immediately, which was a wake-up call hello to the entire industry about who their consumers really are. Within weeks, Fenty had amassed tens of millions in sales and forced legacy cosmetic brands to expand their shade ranges. This is called the Fenty effect. It's a real thing. So, what exactly does a good entrepreneur do when they see success in something? They replicate it, they scale it. So later, when she launched Savage Fenty, her lingerie line, she said, we're going to do this again, fam. Savage Fenty offers bras and lingerie in sizes from 30A up to 46 triple D. That's extra small to 3XL and beyond. And this embraces many different body sizes, as we know. This was a direct challenge. This was direct shade to the industry giant, which, can you guess who that might be? Great job, Victoria's Secret, which for many years had very limited sizing. For example, Victoria's Secret's bras mostly capped at 40 double D. And it was also criticized for its narrow beauty standards. If you've seen the documentaries, they're wild. So by celebrating diversity and inclusion in sizing and casting, Savage Fenty revolutionized the lingerie scene. In runway shows, which were streamed as these extravagant productions on Amazon Prime, they featured models of all sizes, skin tones, ages, and even models with disability. And people rarely, if ever, see this in traditional lingerie ads. In one show, and I love this, Rihanna had pregnant models and even a breast cancer survivor with mastectomy scars proudly walking in lingerie. And I love this about Rihanna because I remember when she was pregnant, when her first child, it's you couldn't, it was all over Instagram and people were body shame her, criticizing her because she was walking around in these little tube tops and just showing her, pregnant belly. And people were trying to shame her for that. And Rihanna was just I don't care, guys. This is me. This is life. Get over it. I love that for her. I love that for all of us. So the message here was pretty clear. Lingerie is for everyone who wants to feel confident and sexy. So a brand can think outside of the box and they can be inclusive and diverse. But what the mass media and market deem it as successful is, does that translate into dollar signs and the market share? Well, Fenty went above and beyond there too. It pulled in nearly $150 million in revenue, and it even pressured Victoria's Secret to rethink its approach as consumers started to favor brands that value inclusivity over exclusivity. That is huge, guys. This is making huge waves, changing an industry that has historically dominated the market. Love, love. So lesson here, and I've mentioned this in the Sarah Blakely episode with Spanx, is spot the gaps in your industry, especially those that speak to inclusion or overlooked audiences, and then make that your opportunity. And the thing is, Fenty's inclusive ethos wasn't a gimmick. You can usually call brands out when they're trying too hard to stand out and be inclusive. Rihanna wasn't doing that with Fenty. It was rooted in Rihanna's own perspective as a woman of color in beauty and her desire to see all types of beauty celebrated. By fearlessly serving an underserved niche, she created a built-in community and a differentiator for her brand. So chances are, if you see a problem in an industry, whether it's clothing or makeup or dog toys, there's a good possibility others are also experiencing the same thing. Just do that market research. So the real secret of becoming a billionaire is, get ready, sit down for this, solve a problem that a lot of people have. If it were only that simple, right? Now, you could argue that Rihanna already, because she had this massive success as a recording artist, she had the resources to create this product line with 40 different shades. You're not wrong there, but don't let something like that make you give up. For example, in another video about Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, shapewear, Spanx that just sucks and tucks everything in. She revolutionized that industry, starting with just $5,000 of her own personal savings, which I know $5,000 is a lot. That can be rent for multiple months, etc. But to start a business that eventually, 12 years later, put her on the cover of Forbes as the, at the time, youngest female billionaire, I'd say not bad. So I'm not saying it's easy. None of this is, but it's very, very possible. So anyway, another hallmark of Rihanna's brand empire is how personal it feels. She infused her own identity, style, and values in every single product, giving her brands a unique personality that fans recognized as authentically Rihanna. We already know it started by naming it after her real last name, Fenty, but the personal touch goes much deeper than the name on the package. From day one, Fenty's marketing had Rihanna's vibe just all over it. The launch campaign video for Fenty Beauty featured a diverse cast of models with different ethnicities, features, and personal styles, set to an upbeat track. Nothing like those typical overly retouched beauty ads. This ethos of be yourself unapologetically, that is pure Rihanna. Her own edgy style, think, tattoos and a daring fashion sense, a mix of high glamour and streetwear, that is reflected in Fenty's visual identity. The products themselves come in chic, yet slightly unconventional packaging. Even product names like the Golden Highlighter Trophy Wife or Lip Paint Uncensored carry her confident, cheeky flair. In short, Rihanna's brands feel like Rihanna, bold but approachable, sexy but empowering, playful yet high quality. So another layer to this, stories and values. So we have been telling stories since the dawn of time, you guys. So this shouldn't surprise you. But if you think about what makes you choose Adidas over Nike or Louis Vuitton over Chanel, it's the stories that the brands tell and the little micro moments where you see the brand as an extension of yourself. I mentioned this earlier. Because Rihanna is intentional about what her brands stand for, they each tell a story that connects with people. Fenty Beauty's story is about inclusive beauty born from Rihanna's own frustration at the lack of shades. Savage Fenty's story is about empowerment for all bodies, driven by Rihanna's belief that confidence is for everyone. She often says that she wants people to feel confident in their bodies when they wear her lingerie, which is the whole point of lingerie, right? Even Fenty Skin launched as a gender-neutral skincare line, with Rihanna explicitly saying everyone should take care of their skin. Now, those same values fuel her business. This consistency means that her fans who became customers, they know what she stands for, and they buy into a lifestyle and an identity, not just a product. Lesson here for your own brand, or even if you work for a company and you're a creative for another brand, don't be afraid to put yourself into it, right? If you were hired for a different company, there is a reason they hired you. Your background, your qualifications, you bring something unique to the table. So you can infuse that in the copywriting, in the design, in the strategy. Draw from personal experiences. That's what makes things great. If you can find a way to infuse your personality, your backstory, and your values into your brand's DNA, not only does this make your brand unique, it also helps forge an emotional bond with your audience. Now, people can tell when a product or project is an authentic expression of someone versus when it's a cynical money grab. Authenticity is your competitive advantage. It's hard to copy, and it builds a loyal community around your brand. So another thing I want to mention about Rihanna's trajectory is how she built a multifaceted empire without losing her core identity. As humans, we're these complex beings, right? We have these multiple passions and talents. And Rihanna demonstrates that you can turn those into diverse income streams if you do it with purpose and favorite word of the episode, authenticity. So after conquering music, she of course ventured into fashion, and it started with collaborations with Puma, and then of course her own luxury line, beauty, skincare, lingerie, and so much more. But she didn't do this all at once, and she didn't do it arbitrarily. Her expansion offers a blueprint for diversifying your brand or business. Expand organically. Rihanna played the long game. Early in her career, she dipped into branding with fragrances. So each move she made in the industry was a kind of a stepping stone that built her brand savviness and her credibility with the public. By the time Fenty Beauty launched in 2017, fans already associated Rihanna with bold beauty and style. Importantly, she chooses ventures that made sense for her. Makeup, lingerie, and fashion, all areas her audience could naturally see her influencing. She didn't say, start a tech company out of the blue. She stayed in those lanes where she had interest from her fan base and grew from there. So the big lesson and takeaway here is grow into new niches based on your genuine interest and audience fit. If you're a graphic designer who loves cooking, you might extend your brand into food blogging or kitchen product design. But launching a random financial tech app might confuse your audience. Another thing too, I mentioned her partnership with Puma. partner wisely. None of Rihanna's business triumphs happened in a vacuum or in isolation. She teamed up with experts to make them possible. In fact, Fenty Beauty was formed as a 50-50 joint venture with LVMH, the luxury conglomerate behind Dior, Louis Vuitton, etc. This partnership gave Fenty the funding, the supply chain, and the retail distribution to hit the ground running globally. Similarly, Savage Fenty was launched with a tech-driven lingerie startup partner for e-commerce. So she found the strengths in the different partnerships, fused her vision and idea to make that happen. So when scaling your passion or your brand, or if you work for another company, this isn't just for entrepreneurs or creators. When scaling, consider partnering or collaborating with those who complement your skills. You do not have to be an expert in everything. Bring your unique strength, whether that's creative vision, subject matter expertise, audience connection, and team up with the people who have the operational or technical know-how to execute at a high level. And also make sure that any partnership aligns with your brand values. So Rihanna likely chose LVMH in part because they respected her creative control and understood the luxury branding she wanted. If they tried to overpower her vision in any way, we might not have Fenty as Fenty. And then maintain quality and focus. Even as she juggles multiple brands, Rihanna has been careful to maintain a high quality and attention to detail in each. She once described managing her businesses like having a bunch of kids and you need to take care of all of them. This meant that at times she paused or slowed her music output to ensure Fenty Beauty or Savage got the focus that it needed. And it's a trade-off that paid off in the long run. She doesn't launch a new venture for the sake of hype. She launches when she's confident, it meets her standards, and it fills a purpose. For example, Fenty Skin only came after Fenty Beauty's makeup was well established, and it addressed Rihanna's personal skincare philosophies. And finally, keep the passion alive. Perhaps most importantly, Rihanna clearly enjoys these business ventures. In interviews, you can sense how excited she is when she talks about making something from a vision into a reality in areas that she loves. That genuine passion is infectious. Customers feel it too. It's a reminder that building a brand isn't just about profit. It's about building something that you're proud of and love to share with the world. Otherwise, you're just going to get burnt out. So as you expand, continuously ground yourself in why you started and what personally drives you about the work. That will keep your brand's soul intact even as it grows, and it won't outgrow you. Rihanna's evolution from pop culture icon to mogul next door shows that authenticity scales. She leveraged who she is, a proud Barbados, trend-setting, no BS creative woman, into brands that feel like a natural extension of her soul. In doing so, she tapped into a cultural moment. People were hungry for realness, for inclusion, for something that felt fresh in industries full of sameness. By providing that, Rihanna didn't just build a business, she built a movement of her fans who feel seen, heard, and inspired by her products. Thanks for hanging out, guys. That's a wrap on this episode of Jeans with a Blazer. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, a mindset shift, or just the push you needed, do me a favor. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Leave a review wherever you enjoy your podcasts. It helps more people find it, and it keeps these conversations going. And I love hearing from you. Follow @Jeans with a Blazer and tag me with your biggest takeaways, your latest wins, or just tell me what topics you want to hear about next. See you next time.